So I'm just going to pause for a second, and maybe I'm crazy here, but I feel like everything that's covered in this video, like, I don't want to be offensive. I just feel like it doesn't matter. All right, so the last react, if there's nothing else, is not the discovery I was hoping for.
As of doing this video, we are just past 2 weeks into Season of Discovery, and it has been an amazing ride so far. There has been raiding, PvPing, and just trying to figure out how best to play my class given all the new runes and abilities. And everyone else has been figuring out their classes too. And it's really starting to show. So today's video was one I was on the fence about making because I know we are so early into the season and things very well may change in the near future. Again, it's been about 2 weeks and we've only had a handful of raid resets. I also fully appreciate many players won't have had the chance to hit level 25 yet, and that is fine. But myself, I like to look at the numbers. I like to see how different classes are doing out of interest and to get an idea of how Season of Discovery really has impacted the game so far, and it is trending in a certain direction, I will say that much. I also realised the devs in the season didn't set out to make a near perfectly balanced experience where we are all within a few percentage of each other on the damage meter, nor do I expect that from Classic, to be honest. In fact, Agrend himself has been clapping back at people jumping to conclusions about how their class is performing already, and I love to see that.
I didn't see this tweet. Honest question, do you think we're done making adjustments? I find the whole phase thing a bit confusing. It's been 9 days. More than half of the players aren't 25 yet. I think we're just getting started. Yeah, true. Comment Josh W.
Clapping back at people jumping to conclusions about how their class is performing already, and I love to see that directly from somebody who's in charge of this game. And as a follow-up to that, just before I was about to release the video, Blizzard have done a huge round of buffs for some of the classes suffering most in the current raid tier. I guess if we throw them enough extra numbers, eventually they will work, but I still think there are likely to be reoccurring problems. But today I want to talk about something which I think is worth giving feedback on, because right now it's more than just X class good, Y class bad. And again, I'm sure they are aware of this and have plans for changes, but I think in the interest of the season being a great experience for everyone, this is a topic worth bringing up. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Watcher of Realms. Watcher of Realms is a free-to-play strategy game available on PC, Android, and iOS, where a new experience awaits for fans of role-playing games, MMORPGs, and many more. Watcher of Realms features immersive graphics and lifelike 3D models, so you can really appreciate the world that you are stepping into. Watcher of Realms' special feature to stand apart is a...
Skip it? Wait, how do you can't skip an ad, guys. You have to watch it. You have to watch it all the way through. Yeah, it supports the content creator.
360-degree real-time operational battlefield. Players can control a whole variety of heroes whose different characteristics can be used to manipulate land, water, and sky. Each hero can contribute different bonuses to different maps, but they are fast to level up and to get to grips with, so you can experience action and strategy anywhere. Watcher of Realms places great emphasis on players' gaming experience, and is committed to creating a time-saving and user-friendly hero development system. A large number of free powerful heroes can be obtained in the early stage. New to the game is the Christmas event, which will feature seasonal decorations, extra rewards, new skins, and the ability to earn powerful legendary hero shards just for groups of the link free using Metal. Many thanks. Let's bring up the picture for the sponsor today.
Here we go.
Let's get back to WoW. So then, let's bring up the picture. Warcraft logs Black Fathoms Deep over a range of 2 weeks, 95th percentile. This is how the top 5% performers for each class are doing. There's a pretty big gap between the top and the bottom. That's the first thing you'll notice here.
Look, mages suck, man. Frost Mage, Arcane... like I've been saying, man, mages need buffs. It's confirmed now. Statistically, analytically.
Isn't really the point I want to get across, because we can change this down to 75th percentile here, or even 50th, and it's a similar story as to which classes are the ones doing well. The point is that in every example, the classes at the top deal mainly or entirely physical damage, and the classes doing not so well deal mainly or entirely magical damage. Yes, there are some outliers here, such as the poor boomies or shadow priests, but it's not just a well buff those classes issue here. Every single caster is worse off than melee, with the one exception perhaps.
So maybe, I mean, this video is 2 days ago. So maybe he made the video a little preemptive, but the boon got a spell damage buff. So spellcasters across the board are doing better since this video came out.
Perhaps being Warlock, why are they doing better? Probably because they have life tap and can get a lot more mana back during a fight. Also, Warlocks are the only caster who can use 2 runes in their main rotation, Incinerate and Chaos Bolt, and if you can get away with only using runes to deal damage as a caster, you very much want to do that. We'll talk about why later. The other big outlier is Enhancement Shaman, which isn't keeping up with other melee. Why is that? Well, if I had to guess, most of their DPS buttons are still spells, and they have a mana bar to contend with too. Now, there will always be a best and a worst DPS. That is how World of Warcraft works. Always has, always will do. But from what I can see at the moment, casters are generally worse than physical damage dealers. And though we are very early into the season, I know that melee outscale casters by a pretty big margin. And some of the caster gear that can drop is insane. I mean, pretty much all the gear from BFD is crazy, but check this out, for example. The new epic staff that drops is so good, it would have been level 60 pre-bis back in 2019 Classic.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was that good. Rod of the Ogre Magi is what level 60s farm out. Of course, it has that 1% crit, so Rod is better, but come on, this is level 25. That's a crazy comparison.
In 2019 Classic, for every single caster, this is including Diamond loot, and we can get that at level 25. The epic sword that drops is amazing too, but
apparently Mitch Jones just got this sword. Cannot confirm if real or true, but probably real. So grats on Mitch getting the Strike the Hydra.
You're gonna replace that at level 40. Even if Blizzard didn't put new weapons in the game, there are better choices. Then again, it is a bit hard to compare weapons between casters and melee. One of them is very dependent on their weapon for damage, the other not so much. And I know, we're level 25, right? We've got new runes coming in the future, but when we level up, everyone gets more powerful. Shadow Priest's underlying issues are not going to be fixed when you get Shadow Form. I'll just say that right now. So what's the deal then? Why is physical good, caster bad? The first point is spell ranks. Spell ranks existing can put casters in a position where they're just short of being able to rank up their main damage dealing ability. Something I'm sure you've noticed with runes is that they just scale up as you level, and they do not have spell ranks. On top of that, they cost—
I actually didn't know that. I'm a moron. I was looking at some of my runes and I was like, I wonder if we're gonna get a rank 2 of this or a rank 3. I didn't catch on that they scale up as you level. Okay, that makes a lot of sense then. Like on a Frost Mage, you only have rank 4 Frostbolt, not 5, I believe, or 5, not 6, or something like that. And you're like just before getting the next rank. So Frostbolt like sucks at 25, for example.
Just a percent of your base mana instead of a flat value. And in a larger number of cases, rune-based abilities are going to be significantly more mana efficient to use than your standard class spells. The ability for spells to scale and not need to be ranked up is a change from Kata, by the way, and base mana usage came from Wrath. Now, getting a new spell rank is kind of a big deal. For me, on my Warlock at the moment, my best rank of Shadow Bolt is rank 4, learned at level 20. It does 92 to 104 damage. The next rank is 28, which I can't get this phase, and that deals between 150 to 170 shadow damage. So we're talking the difference between me having a button that does on average 98 damage versus one that does 160. Now for melee, however, spell ranks are not such a big deal, as a ton of their abilities are tied to stuff such as attack power or weapon damage. Take Rogue for example and Sinister Strike. The best rank they can get by 25 is rank 4, which does weapon damage plus 15. The next rank at level 30 makes them now do weapon damage plus 22. So the difference between these two ranks for the Rogue is 7 flat damage. The difference between the two Warlock spells—
Wait, he has 1,000 gold? Are people in the chat calling this guy out for gold buying or for farming a lot of gold? Oh, you're right. 940 gold. Wow. The author of this video is really been farming a lot. Oh my gosh. I didn't realize that.
68 damage.
Jeez.
So all in all, spell ranks are very impactful.
Okay, that
in
makes
fact,
sense.
Warlocks don't even press Shadow Bolt. Take it off your bars, put Incinerate on. It costs about half as much mana and deals more damage. And this spell rank difference between melee and casters is across your whole spellbook too. This is just one example so you can see the difference.
Yep,
On top of that, this isn't just a kind of, well, it's like this at 25, but it'll be better later, as each new level cap introduces new breakpoints where casters are short on getting new spell ranks, whereas melee just kind of don't care about them that much. It's only at level 60 when things begin to even out. This very much could just be something you have to deal with up to level 60 though. Spell ranks are a big part of Classic. Sometimes you want to down rank or use a more mana efficient spell. Moving this whole system to scaling as it was in Kata seems like a big step. Perhaps base mana costs are starting to make a bit more sense now though. I mean, I'm just saying, my Shadow Bolt costs 110 mana and my best rank of Life Tap restores 75 mana. I swear I'm getting an RSI for how much I'm having to tap this season, and I'm a Warlock, so you could say I don't have anything to complain about. Next though, it's not just spell ranks, it's scaling. Straight up scaling. You know, back when WoW first came out, barely any gear had spell power on it, or if it did, it was a very small amount. The idea was that casters put on intellect, and this would allow them to cast more spells and therefore remain relevant over the course of a fight. Eventually though, Blizzard did start amping up spell power on items as they realized intellect alone was not enough. This is why typically when you're leveling in vanilla, nothing really has spell power on.
Okay, so I'm just gonna pause for a second, and maybe I'm crazy here, but I feel like everything that's covered in this video, like, I don't want to be offensive, I just feel like it doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, if you're at level 25 in a dungeon and you get out damaged by a rogue, who the hell cares? It's a level 25 dungeon. Rogues lose to mages in a duel. You're level 25. Like, there's some classes, okay, melee are strong at 25. Okay. Casters aren't as good till later. Okay. Thank you, Czar. I mean, I don't know. Am I crazy here? Like, for me, it just doesn't matter. And like casters, like warlocks, mages, moonkins, and priests, guess what? They kick ass in duels at 25. They beat warriors, they beat rogues, you know, they do pretty well against hunters even. It's like, in a battleground, you don't want all melee, you want a balance. In the raid and BFD, you still want healers and tanks and you know, a variety of DPS. And for the raid, they buffed the BFD world buff to where, like I said at the start of the video, they made it better for casters. So the raid is more balanced since they added that change. For a random dungeon, I feel like who cares? And then for the rest of the game, it's balanced in other ways. So like, I don't know. I feel like the whole video, like I'll wait till I'll watch till the rest. Maybe he hasn't really made his point yet, but I feel like there's nothing really to complain about.
However, these days now we have a pretty good idea that spell power is rather good in fact. Ironically, half the casters in the game are still going even with the updated gear, but still. What I'm getting at is that spell power equals damage for casters, and it's a purely secondary stat. Intellect is nice and everything, you need intellect for a good mana bar, but given the choice, you're gonna take spell power for damage.
Yeah.
What do melee need for damage? They need agility and strength, but they also benefit from both of these stats for attack power and crit. On the caster side, they have intellect for extra mana so they can cast more. It also gives a small amount of crit. They have spirit, which is meant to aid mana regeneration, and then they have no stats that directly boost their spell damage. It's almost as if something was missing here, like a stat called willpower, where 1 point equals 1 or 2 spell damage. And though the new raid gear and updated raid quests start to fix this stat imbalance, physical damage dealers just get more out of their stats. They scale with percentage buffs such as the ZG buff when we can get that eventually, or Blessing of Kings or Aspect of the Lion. But more importantly than that perhaps is that they can crit with nearly all of their main attacks. So if anything I'll mention today, I'd say this has the biggest potential to change in some shape or form, and I'm 100% sure Blizzard knows how impactful this is, but as we currently are, only direct attacks can crit. Damage over time effects cannot crit in vanilla, so everything an Affliction Lock does basically, Shadow Priests, Boomkins, and so on, they're all severely hamstrung by—
I actually didn't know that. So dots can crit in later versions of the game. I think maybe TBC and forward. I guess in classic, dots can't crit. Interesting. I didn't know that.
by this game design choice. Moreover, channel defects cannot crit either, so Blizzard, Rain of Fire, Hellfire, Mindflay, Hurricane. I hate to pick on the Boomies and Shadow Priests here, but this is why it's not looking too pretty at the moment. And yes, there are melees with very impactful damage over time effects too, such as Deep Wounds, or Saber Slash especially come to mind. And maybe one day everything...
It makes me a bit sad as a mage, because I was already theory crafting of a build at level 40. Since you can't do it, I guess I'll spill the beans. What I was going to do is make a build where you get Shatter, okay? And then you Living Bomb into a Nova to get that Living Bomb to crit every time, even after the Nova breaks. This is a strategy that people employed in Mist of Pandaria, right? Like, you'd go Living Bomb with Shatter, and you would Living Bomb in the Nova, and then the Nova would break, but it snapshots the Nova the whole time. So the Living Bomb would crit every single time, or most of the time, you know, because it's Shatter benefit. So you would get a Living Bomb that does twice as much damage, and it would, like, that one Living Bomb would, like, just, like, solo someone. You have Icy Veins up, you have an unused Trinket, I'm talking a mop here, and then the Nova, you literally just put up the Living Bomb, and it would be ticking for, like, I think like 40k back in MOP, which was like a lot every few seconds. I was going to use that strategy in Classic, but you can't do it, Sag.
Should crit as it can in Wrath, but I think just focus on the classes who are very dependent on these effects at the moment. When you think about it though, it's always seemed a bit strange that it was the case that these types of abilities worked in this way. I'm not entirely sure why either. Then again, Vanilla is full of cloth gear with strength on it, and originally had a debuff limit of 8. So yeah, maybe someone just did this and everyone went with it. But perhaps certain damage over time or channel defects should be able to crit via a rune or something of the like in the future, because purely scaling off of spell power just isn't going to cut it. And then of course there are spell resists and partial resists too. 2.5 to 3 seconds of spell casting, 80 to 100 mana spent, your spell flies towards the boss and resist. Ouch. Melee do have an equivalent for this too though, through glancing blows as well as dodge, block, all of those things. It's just when a melee attack misses or is glanced, your next swing comes in a few moments later for another chance. And yes, melee do suffer on the turtle boss in BFD, but man, some of those bosses in there have a whole lot of bonus spell resist. Then again, this is very vanilla-like, so maybe it is what it is. Saying everything I've gone through in this video though, I just want to remind you again, we are in a super early version of the season.
Right.
We're capped at level 25,
right,
and we do not know what's coming in the future.
Right.
I think Blizzard have been doing a great job of rapidly balancing the classes as well as the game as a whole. So maybe some of the things I've gone over here are already in line to be addressed. And remember, the logs I showed at the start are for the raid, and the raid is basically a bunch of single targeting counters which take a few minutes each. There is more to the game than that. There's PvP, there's gold farming, there's dungeons, there'll be more leveling in the future. And in all of these other areas, casters are doing just fine.
Yep, exactly.
Either way, I thought this was something worth talking about for the season. I know we're set for more changes in the future, but discovering that basically every melee spec is better than basically every caster spec in the raid is not quite the discovery that I was hoping to make. And I've been tracking Warcraft logs since early in the season. The physical damage dealers are only trending up. Anyway,
if he's talking about just the raid too, that BFD buff got changed, so casters are doing better than they were.
Please let me know your thoughts on this topic. Should Blizzard change things? Do you think they already know about these and they're aiming to fix some of these problems later on? Let me know below. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a rogue ult to go and level. So thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all on the next one very soon.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, he addresses exactly what we talked about at the end. So, that's fine. For me, I feel like it's just kind of like, yeah, it's level 25. Maybe melee are dominant for a bit. I have to say, Josh Agrend Twitter. It's Josh Greenfield or Agrend. This is pretty cool. This tweet was from Saturday on a follow-up of the layer auto-retire situation. So basically, if you guys are not up to date on what was going on, Ashen Veil was having some like bugs every now and then with layers being auto-retired. So they stopped the auto-retire system, and the community was pretty upset about it because it made the game feel more empty because layers weren't being auto-retired. So there was too many layers, not enough people in each layer. The game felt empty, right? Within a day, Blizzard says, TLDR, we re-enabled the auto retire system. Thank you for the feedback. That's really cool. Like they made a change, the community was pissed, and they took it back within a day. That is a massive W. Like, really cool. If we're gonna call out Blizzard when they do some dumb shit, we also have to applaud them when they do some smart shit. Awesome. Like, the responsiveness, the communication, that's great. Thank you, Blizzard. That's really cool. The Ashenvale event was lit yesterday. Cool. For the Alliance. W. That's great. Season of listening to the player base. Yeah. Thank you for acting quickly. The fix definitely seemed worse than the issue. Did you change back the rate of gain towards an event / the rep gained? Nope. You get to keep that. Enjoy.